What are you doing here?
Ryan Stewart knelt at his daughter's grave, setting down white roses with trembling hands. A man in a janitor's uniform stood 3 feet away, tears streaming down his face. A small boy beside him placing stones on the same headstone. Ryan's breath caught. The child had Claire's green eyes, her dimpled smile. "Who are you?" Ryan's voice cracked. The janitor looked up, voice barely a whisper. "I'm Marcus, your daughter. She was my wife." But before we find out what happens next, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss stories like this. Drop a comment telling us where you're listening from right now. All right, let me tell you how a billionaire real estate mogul discovered the grandson he never knew existed. 10 years ago, Ryan Stewart's life looked completely different. At 44, he stood at the pinnacle of American success. CEO of Stewart Development Corporation, the largest commercial real estate firm in the Northeast. His name graced the sides of skyscrapers in Manhattan, Boston, and Philadelphia. Forbes called him the Tower King. His net worth exceeded $2 billion. But that October morning, none of it mattered. Ryan sat in his corner office on the 57th floor of Stewart Tower in downtown Manhattan, staring at the phone in his hand. The call had come at 6:47 a.m. A voice he didn't recognize. Words that didn't make sense. "Mr. Stewart, this is Detective Morrison with the NYPD. There's been an accident. Your daughter, Claire Brooks, was involved in a single-vehicle collision on the West Side Highway. I'm sorry to inform you." The phone slipped from Ryan's fingers, clattering on the mahogany desk. Claire, his daughter, his only child. Ryan's mind went blank. Around him, Manhattan woke up. Millions of people starting their day, completely unaware that his world had just shattered into a million pieces. Claire Brooks was 28 years old, brilliant, stubborn, idealistic to a fault. And for the past 6 years, she'd barely spoken to her father. The rupture had been Ryan's fault. He knew that, had always known it. Claire had been his world once, his miracle baby, born when Ryan was 16 and still figuring out who he was. Her mother, Amanda, had been his high school girlfriend. When Amanda got pregnant, both families pushed for marriage. Ryan and Amanda were kids raising a kid, struggling in a cramped Brooklyn apartment while Ryan worked construction during the day and took business classes at community college at night. Those were hard years, exhausting, but they were also the happiest years of Ryan's life. Claire was born with a full head of dark hair and green eyes that seemed to see straight into his soul. From the moment the nurse placed her in his arms, Ryan was utterly, completely in love. "She's perfect," he'd whispered to Amanda. "She's ours," Amanda had replied, tears streaming down her face. Ryan worked himself to the bone for his girls. By the time Claire was 5, he'd graduated from community college and landed a job as a junior analyst at a small investment firm. By the time she was 10, he'd moved into real estate development. By the time she was 15, he'd started his own company. Money started coming in. Real money. Enough to move from Brooklyn to a house in Westchester. Enough to send Claire to private school. Enough to give her every opportunity Ryan never had. But somewhere along the way, something shifted. Ryan remembered the exact moment. Claire was 16, sitting at the dinner table in their new house, a sprawling colonial with 6 bedrooms and a 3-car garage. She'd just gotten her acceptance letter to a summer program for environmental studies. "Dad, I got in. I'm going to spend 6 weeks in Costa Rica studying rainforest conservation." Ryan barely looked up from his phone. "That's nice, honey. Listen, I have a conference call in 10 minutes. Dad, did you hear me? Costa Rica. This is what I want to do with my life. I want to work in environmental protection." That got his attention. Ryan put down the phone. "Environmental protection. Claire, that's not a career. That's a hobby. You should be thinking about business school, law school, something practical." Claire's face had fallen. "But Dad, this matters to me. What matters is building a future. I've worked incredibly hard to give you opportunities. I never asked for any of this." Claire had shouted, gesturing at the big house, the expensive furniture. "I never asked to live in this giant empty house where you're never home anyway." That was the beginning of the end. Over the next 2 years, Claire pulled away. She went to college at a small liberal arts school in Vermont, as far from Manhattan as she could get without leaving the East Coast. She studied environmental science and sociology. She joined protests. She wrote articles for the student paper about corporate greed and income inequality, and she stopped coming home. Ryan told himself she was just going through a phase, that she'd grow out of it, that eventually she'd realize he'd been right all along. He was wrong. When Claire graduated college, she didn't ask Ryan for help finding a job. She moved into a tiny apartment in Brooklyn with 3 roommates and started working for a non-profit environmental advocacy group. Her salary was barely above minimum wage. Ryan was furious. "I paid $180,000 for your education so you could make $30,000 a year." "I'm doing something that matters," Claire had said quietly. "I'm trying to make the world better." "Not everything is about money, Dad." "Easy to say when you've never gone without it." "You're right, I haven't, because you never let me forget how hard you worked to give me everything." Claire's voice had been sad, not angry. "But you know what you never gave me, Dad? Your time, your attention, you." Those were the last words they'd spoken. Claire walked out of Ryan's office that day, and he didn't see her again. That was 6 years ago. Ryan tried to reach out. He did. He called, left voicemails, sent emails. But Claire never responded, and after a while Ryan stopped trying, told himself if she wanted to waste her life, that was her choice, buried himself deeper in work. He threw himself into building his empire, acquired properties, developed projects, made more money than he could ever spend, and tried not to think about the daughter who wanted nothing to do with him. Then came the call from Detective Morrison. Ryan drove to the hospital in a daze. The accident had happened at 2 a.m. Claire's car had hydroplaned in the rain, skidded across 3 lanes, and hit a barrier at 60 miles per hour. She'd died on impact. At the hospital, they led Ryan to a cold room with fluorescent lights. A doctor pulled back a white sheet. Claire looked peaceful, like she was sleeping, but her skin was cold when Ryan touched her face. "My baby," he whispered. "My baby girl. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." But sorry was too late. At the funeral, Ryan barely remembered what happened. There were people there, Claire's friends, her co-workers, people whose faces Ryan didn't recognize. They told stories about Claire, about her passion for the environment, her kindness, how she volunteered every weekend at a community garden in Brooklyn, how she tutored kids after school, how she made everyone around her want to be better. Ryan listened to strangers talk about his daughter and realized he'd known almost nothing about her life. After the funeral, Ryan went through Claire's belongings. Her landlord let him into her apartment, a tiny studio in Bed-Stuy with plants on every surface and second-hand furniture. Claire had lived here for 3 years, and Ryan had never visited once. In her desk drawer, Ryan found journals, years of them. He sat on her bed and read, tears streaming down his face. Entry after entry chronicled Claire's life, her work, her dreams, her heartbreak over the distance from her father. In one entry from 2 years ago, she'd written, "I wish Dad could see that I'm happy, that I'm doing meaningful work, that I don't need his money or his approval. I just needed his love, but he can't separate the two. To him, love means providing material things. He doesn't understand that I just wanted him to show up, to ask about my day, to care about what I care about. I miss him every day, but I can't go back to being the daughter he wants me to be. I have to be myself." Ryan sobbed, clutching the journal. He'd lost her, and it was his own fault. In the weeks after Claire's death, Ryan tried to lose himself in work, but nothing helped. The grief was crushing. He'd wake up at 3 a.m., remembering Claire as a little girl, running into his arms when he came home from work. Claire at 6, showing him the picture she'd painted. Claire at 12, begging him to come to her school play. He'd always been too busy, always had a meeting, always had a deal closing. And now she was gone. Ryan stopped going to the office. His assistant fielded calls. His partners handled meetings. Ryan just existed, barely. His therapist suggested a routine, something to mark the grief. So Ryan started visiting Claire's grave every week. Every Saturday morning, he'd drive 2 hours to Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn where Claire was buried. He'd chosen the plot himself, under a massive oak tree overlooking a small pond. Claire had loved trees. As a kid, she'd climb the oak in their backyard and sit for hours with a book. The headstone was simple grey granite. He'd agonized over the inscription for days before finally settling on words from one of Claire's journals. Claire Brooks, beloved daughter. She believed in a better world. Every Saturday, Ryan brought white roses, Claire's favorite. He'd sit on the grass beside her grave and talk, tell her about his week, apologize for everything he'd done wrong, promise to be better. Even though it was too late. This went on for months. Then a year, then 2, then 10. 10 years of Saturday mornings, 10 years of grief that never quite faded, 10 years of wondering what Claire's life would have been like if Ryan had been a better father. Ryan's entire life had narrowed to work and grief. He had no close friends, no relationships. His ex-wife Amanda had remarried and moved to California. Ryan rarely saw her. His business partners respected him, but kept their distance. Ryan Stewart, the billionaire, was completely alone, and he thought this was how his life would end. Successful, wealthy, and utterly, devastatingly empty. He had no idea that everything was about to change. That one Saturday morning, 10 years after Claire's death, he would arrive at her grave and find something impossible. Someone else grieving for the daughter Ryan had lost. Someone with a secret that would shatter everything Ryan thought he knew about Claire's life. This particular Saturday was the 10th anniversary of Claire's death. Ryan woke at dawn, as he always did. The October sky was grey, threatening rain. Perfect weather for grief. Ryan dressed in the same black suit he always wore for cemetery visits. He picked up white roses from the same florist he'd been using for 10 years. He drove the same route, West Side Highway to Brooklyn, then through residential streets to Greenwood Cemetery. The cemetery was nearly empty this early, just Ryan and the ghosts. He parked in his usual spot and walked up the familiar path, past old headstones dating back 100 years, past the pond where ducks floated peacefully, up the gentle hill toward the oak tree, and then he saw them, a man and a child, at Claire's grave. Ryan's steps faltered. In 10 years he'd never encountered anyone else at Claire's grave. Who were they? He got closer, and details emerged. The man looked to be in his early 30s, maybe 32 or 33. Average height, maybe 5'10". Dark blonde hair that needed a trim. Wearing a maintenance worker's uniform, dark blue jumpsuit with a name patch that said Marcus. His hands were rough, calloused, working hands. Next to him stood a small boy, maybe 4 years old, dark brown hair, wearing a little red jacket. The child was carefully placing small stones on top of Claire's headstone, his young face serious with concentration. The man had tears streaming down his face. Ryan stopped 10 feet away, his heart pounding. "Excuse me," he said, his voice coming out rougher than intended. "Can I help you?" The man startled, quickly wiping his eyes. He turned to face Ryan, and Ryan saw his face clearly for the first time. Young, tired, grief etched into every line. "I'm sorry," the man said quickly. "We didn't mean to intrude. We'll go—" "No, wait!" Ryan stepped closer. This is my daughter's grave, Claire Brooks. Did you know her?" The man's face went pale. His eyes widened. You're Ryan Stewart?" "Yes. How did you know—" "Claire talked about you." The man's voice was barely audible. "I'm Marcus Bennett. Claire she was my wife." The world tilted sideways. Ryan stared at this stranger, this janitor in a maintenance uniform, trying to process words that made no sense. Wife. Claire had been married. "That's impossible," Ryan heard himself say. "Claire wasn't married. I would have known." We got married 4 years ago, Marcus said quietly. Small ceremony, just us and a couple of friends. Claire didn't want a big wedding. She said it didn't matter. What mattered was, his voice broke. What mattered was that we loved each other. Ryan's knees felt weak. He looked at the small boy who was watching this exchange with wide, curious eyes, green eyes, Claire's eyes. And the child? Ryan asked, though some part of him already knew the answer. This is Ethan. Marcus's hand rested protectively on the boy's shoulder. Our son, Claire's son. He just turned 4 last month. Ryan couldn't breathe. A grandson. He had a grandson, and he'd never known. How? Ryan couldn't form a complete sentence. How is this possible? How did I not know? Marcus looked down at Ethan, then back at Ryan. Claire didn't tell you because she said you'd made it clear what you thought of her choices, her work, her life. She didn't think you'd approve of me. His voice was quiet, sad. I'm a maintenance worker at a community center in Brooklyn. I don't have a college degree. I make $35,000 a year. Claire said, she said you'd think she married beneath her. Each word was a knife to Ryan's chest, because Marcus was right. If Claire had brought this man home 6 years ago, or 4 years ago, Ryan would have been appalled, would have thought she was throwing her life away, would have said terrible things, and Claire had known it. She'd gotten married, had a child, built a whole life, and never told him because she knew exactly what his reaction would be. When did she... Ryan couldn't say the word. 6 months after Ethan was born. Marcus's eyes were wet again. Postpartum complication, aneurysm. She collapsed at home. I called 911, but... He shook his head. It was too fast. They said she didn't suffer, but I can't. He broke down, shoulders shaking with silent sobs. Ryan stood frozen, watching this stranger grieve for the daughter Ryan had driven away, watching his grandson, look up at his father with concern. Daddy, the little boy said softly, why are you sad? I'm okay, buddy. Marcus wiped his eyes, forcing a smile. I'm okay. But he clearly wasn't okay. Ryan's mind raced. Claire had been gone for 10 years. No, that was wrong. Claire had died 6 years ago, after their fight, after she'd walked out of his office. She'd lived 4 more years, met Marcus, fallen in love, gotten married, had a baby, and died without ever calling her father. The pain of that realization was crushing. I didn't know, Ryan whispered. I swear I didn't know she was married. Didn't know about Ethan. She never told me. I know. Marcus's voice was kind, which somehow made it worse. Claire said you two weren't in contact. She said it was complicated. It was my fault. The words burst out of Ryan. Everything was my fault. I was a terrible father. I chose work over her again and again. And when she tried to live her own life, I rejected her for it. The last thing I said to her was cruel. And then she was gone, and I never got to apologize. Never got to tell her I was proud of her. Never got to... Ryan's voice broke. 10 years of grief crashing over him all at once. He sank to his knees in the grass, next to Claire's headstone. His whole body shook with sobs. Marcus stood awkwardly nearby, clearly unsure what to do. Daddy? Ethan tugged on Marcus's sleeve. Why is the old man crying? Because he loved Claire too, Marcus said softly. And he misses her. Like we miss Mommy? Yeah, buddy. Like we miss Mommy. Ryan pulled himself together with effort. He wiped his eyes and looked up at this young man, this stranger who had loved his daughter. Tell me about her, Ryan said hoarsely. Please, tell me about Claire's life. I need to know. Marcus hesitated, then nodded. He sat down on the grass. Ethan climbed into his lap, and Marcus began to talk. He told Ryan about meeting Claire 5 years ago at a community garden in Brooklyn. Claire had been leading a workshop on composting. Marcus had been there with kids from the community center where he worked. They'd gotten to talking. She was the most passionate person I'd ever met, Marcus said, a small smile on his face. She cared so much about everything, the environment, social justice, helping people. She was always organizing something, a cleanup, a protest, a fundraiser. Marcus told Ryan about their first date, a picnic in Prospect Park with food Claire had made herself because she said restaurants were wasteful, about how Claire talked for 2 hours about her dream of starting an urban farming initiative to bring fresh food to food deserts. She wasn't just talk, Marcus said. She actually did it, got a grant, turned 3 abandoned lots in Bed-Stuy into community gardens, taught people how to grow their own food, created jobs for local teenagers. Ryan listened, tears streaming down his face. This was his daughter, this incredible woman who changed her community, and he'd missed all of it. Marcus told him about their wedding, Claire in a simple white dress from a thrift store, flowers in her hair that she'd grown herself. About her pregnancy, how excited and terrified she'd been. About Ethan's birth, how she'd cried when they placed him in her arms, whispered, "He's perfect." "She was the best mom," Marcus said, his voice thick. "Those 6 months we had with her after Ethan was born, they were the best months of my life. She'd sing to him, these silly made-up songs, and she'd tell him stories about all the things they'd do together when he got bigger, all the places they'd explore." Marcus's voice broke again. "She should be here. She should be watching him grow up. It's not fair." "No," Ryan whispered. "It's not fair." They sat in silence for a long moment. Ethan had fallen asleep in Marcus's lap, exhausted from the emotion of the morning. Finally, Ryan spoke. "Why did you come here today?" "I come every week," Marcus said. "I want Ethan to know his mother, even if he can't remember her. I bring pictures, tell him stories. Claire's buried here because you chose this spot, right? I looked up the deed. It's in your name." "Yes." I thought, she loved trees. "She did." Marcus looked up at the oak. "She would have loved this spot. Thank you for giving her such a beautiful place to rest." Ryan nodded, unable to speak. "I should go," Marcus said after a moment. "Ethan needs to nap, and I have a shift at 4. He started to stand, carefully cradling the sleeping child. "Wait." Ryan stood too. Can I see you again? And Ethan? Please, I know I have no right to ask, but he's my grandson, my only connection to Claire, and I need—" He couldn't finish the sentence. Marcus studied him for a long moment. Ryan could see the calculation happening. This man protecting his son from potential hurt, from a wealthy stranger with unclear motives. "Claire talked about you sometimes," Marcus finally said. "She said you were complicated, that you loved her but didn't know how to show it, that you valued the wrong things." He paused. "But she also said she wished things had been different, that she missed having a dad." Ryan's throat tightened. "I don't want Ethan to grow up without family," Marcus continued. "He doesn't have grandparents. My parents died when I was a kid. Claire's mom lives in California and we barely hear from her. It's just been me and Ethan. And that's hard. Really hard." "I want to be in his life," Ryan said urgently. "I want to know my grandson. I want to be the grandfather I never got to be. Please, give me a chance." Marcus looked down at sleeping Ethan, then back at Ryan. "Okay," he said quietly. "You can visit. But I need you to understand something. I'm not impressed by money. I don't care about your net worth or your buildings or any of that. What I care about is Ethan. And if you hurt him, if you reject him the way you rejected Claire, I will cut you out of his life completely. Understood?" "Understood," Ryan said, his voice fierce. "I swear I will never make those mistakes again. I lost my daughter. I won't lose my grandson too." Marcus nodded slowly. "I live in Flatbush, 2847 Bedford Avenue, apartment 3B. You can come by tomorrow, Sunday afternoon, around 2. We can talk more." "I'll be there," Ryan promised. Marcus adjusted Ethan in his arms and started walking toward the parking lot. Ryan watched them go, this young father carrying his sleeping son, shouldering grief and responsibility that would have crushed most people. Claire had chosen well, Ryan realized. Marcus Bennett might not have money or status, but he had something far more valuable. He had love. He had character. He had shown up for Claire in ways Ryan never had. Ryan turned back to Claire's grave. He knelt down, placing his hand on the cool granite headstone. "I met your family, baby girl," he whispered. "Your husband, your son. They're wonderful. Marcus is a good man. He loved you. He's taking such good care of Ethan. You chose well." Tears streamed down Ryan's face. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. I'm so sorry I pushed you away. I'm so sorry you didn't think you could tell me about them. That's on me. That's my failure. But Claire, I swear I'm going to do better. I'm going to be there for Ethan. I'm going to be the grandfather I should have been. I'm going to make you proud. I promise." He sat there until the sun was high in the sky, talking to his daughter, making promises to a headstone. And for the first time in 10 years, Ryan Stewart felt something he hadn't felt since the day Claire died. Hope. The next day, Ryan stood outside 2847 Bedford Avenue in Flatbush, staring up at the old brick building. It was nothing like the neighborhoods Ryan usually visited. This was working-class Brooklyn, bodegas on the corners, kids playing basketball in the street, laundry hanging from fire escapes. Ryan felt completely out of place in his expensive suit. He climbed the 3 flights to apartment 3B and knocked. Marcus answered, looking tired but clean. He'd changed into jeans and a t-shirt. Behind him, Ryan could hear cartoons playing. "Come in," Marcus said, stepping aside. The apartment was tiny, maybe 600 square feet total. The living room barely fit a couch and TV. Through a doorway, Ryan could see a small kitchen. Another doorway led to what must be the bedroom. But it was clean, organized. The walls were covered with pictures. Claire smiling, Claire pregnant, Claire holding a newborn Ethan. Seeing her face again, alive and happy, was a punch to the gut. "Ethan," Marcus called. "Come say hi." The little boy appeared from the bedroom, clutching a stuffed dinosaur. He looked at Ryan with curious green eyes. Claire's eyes. "Hi," Ethan said shyly. Ryan knelt down to the boy's level, his throat tight. "Hi, Ethan. I'm Ryan. I knew your mommy when she was little, like you. Did she like dinosaurs?" Ethan held up his toy. "She did," Ryan lied, though he had no idea. But it made Ethan smile, so it was worth it. They sat in the cramped living room. Marcus made coffee. Ethan played with blocks on the floor, and Ryan and Marcus talked. Marcus told Ryan more about Claire's life, about the non-profit she'd worked for, the projects she'd led, the people she'd helped, about their apartment in Bed-Stuy, even smaller than this one, but filled with plants and light and love. "After she died, I couldn't stay there," Marcus said quietly, so Ethan wouldn't hear. "Every room had memories. I needed a fresh start. Found this place. It's not much, but it's ours." "How do you manage?" Ryan asked. "Financially, childcare, everything." Marcus shrugged. "It's tight. I work maintenance at the Crown Heights Community Center. It doesn't pay much, but they're flexible with my hours. Let me bring Ethan to work sometimes. Daycare's expensive, so I've cobbled together help. Neighbor watches him 2 days a week. Community center has a part-time program 3 days a week. I'm barely scraping by, honestly, but we make it work." Ryan's mind was racing. This was unacceptable. His grandson living in a tiny apartment. His daughter's husband working himself to exhaustion for poverty wages. Claire would hate Ryan helping. She'd always rejected his money, but Claire was gone, and Ethan was here. Ethan deserved better. But Ryan remembered Marcus's warning. He wasn't going to swoop in with money and fix everything. That's what the old Ryan would have done, and that approach had cost him his daughter. "Can I help?" Ryan asked carefully. "I'm not trying to take over, but I'm Ethan's grandfather. I'd like to be involved, if you'll let me." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "What kind of help are you offering?" "Whatever you need. Childcare, financial support, just time with my grandson. I want to be part of his life. I missed everything with Claire. I don't want to miss this." Marcus studied him. "I don't want charity. I don't want to be your project. And I don't want Ethan to grow up thinking money solves everything." "I understand," Ryan said. "How about this? I'll come visit. Once a week to start. Spend time with Ethan. Get to know him. Get to know you. And we'll figure out the rest as we go. No expectations, no strings. Marcus nodded slowly. Okay, we can try that. Thank you, Ryan said, and meant it. That afternoon was the first of many. Ryan started coming every Sunday. He'd spend hours in that tiny apartment playing with Ethan, reading stories, building block towers, learning about this little boy who was half Claire. Ethan was smart, curious, gentle. He loved dinosaurs and trains. He asked a million questions about everything. He had Claire's laugh. And slowly, carefully, Ryan fell in love with his grandson. Marcus and Ryan developed a cautious friendship. Marcus was guarded at first, protective, but as weeks turned to months, he relaxed. They talked while Ethan played, about life, about Claire, about grief and fatherhood and trying to do better. Ryan learned that Marcus had grown up in foster care, aged out of the system at 18 with no family, worked his way through community college while juggling 3 jobs, met Claire when he was 27, and felt like he'd finally found home. She made me believe I deserved good things, Marcus said one Sunday. I'd spent my whole life feeling like I wasn't enough, but Claire saw me, really saw me, and she chose me anyway. Ryan understood that feeling, being seen by Claire, being found worthy of her love, and he understood what a gift that was, a gift he'd thrown away through his own stupidity. 3 months into their new arrangement, Marcus's apartment building was sold. The new landlord was renovating, raising rents. Marcus got a notice. His rent was doubling. There was no way he could afford it. I don't know what to do, Marcus told Ryan, voice tight with stress. I've been looking for new apartments, but everything's so expensive. And I can't move too far. I need to stay near the community center for work, but I can't afford anything in this neighborhood anymore. This was the moment. Ryan knew it. He could solve this problem with a single check, buy Marcus a house, pay off his rent for years, eliminate the financial stress completely. But that's not what Claire would have wanted. Claire would have wanted Ryan to show up, to be present, to value people over money. Move in with me, Ryan heard himself say. Marcus stared. What? I have a house in Westchester, 6 bedrooms. It's way too big for one person. There's a guest house in the back that's completely separate. You and Ethan could live there. Privacy, space. You wouldn't have to pay rent. You could save money, and I'd get to see my grandson more. Ryan, I can't. Please. Ryan's voice was raw. I'm not trying to buy you. I'm not trying to control you. I lost 10 years with Claire. I don't want to miss any more time with Ethan. And you're struggling. Let me help. Not with money, with space, with family. Marcus was quiet for a long time. The guest house is really separate? Completely. Its own entrance, kitchen, everything. You'd have total privacy. And you wouldn't try to, I don't know, parent Ethan? Or tell me what to do? No. You're his father. I'm just his grandfather. I know my place. Marcus looked down at Ethan, who was absorbed in a puzzle. Let me think about it. 2 weeks later, Marcus and Ethan moved into the guest house. It was strange at first. The house in Westchester had been empty for years. Ryan barely used it, preferring his Manhattan penthouse. But having Marcus and Ethan there brought life to the place. Ryan heard Ethan's laughter in the garden, saw Marcus's truck in the driveway, came home to lights on in the guest house. For the first time in a decade, Ryan's house felt like a home. They developed a routine. Marcus would cook dinner a few nights a week and invite Ryan to join them. Ryan would watch Ethan on Saturday mornings, so Marcus could run errands. They'd all go to the park on Sunday afternoons. It wasn't perfect. They had disagreements. Marcus was fiercely independent and sometimes bristled at Ryan's suggestions. Ryan had to learn to back off, to ask instead of tell, to respect boundaries. But they figured it out, and Ethan thrived. He had space to run in the big backyard, his own room in the guest house, which Ryan helped Marcus paint. Ethan chose blue with dinosaur decals. He started at a good local preschool that Ryan paid for, a point of contention until Marcus agreed to pay Ryan back by handling maintenance on the main house. I'm not a freeloader, Marcus insisted. I pull my weight. I know, Ryan said. I never thought you were. 6 months after they moved in, Ryan came home from work to find Marcus in the kitchen of the main house, making dinner. This had become normal, Marcus refusing to let Ryan eat takeout every night. "Hey," Marcus said, stirring pasta sauce. "Ethan's watching a movie in the guest house. Dinner in 20. "Thanks." Ryan loosened his tie, exhausted from a long day of meetings. "Rough day?" "Just thinking." Ryan sat at the kitchen island. "It's the anniversary of the day Claire walked out of my office, the last time I saw her alive." Marcus turned off the stove and came to sit next to Ryan. "Want to talk about it?" Ryan found himself telling Marcus the whole story. The fight, the cruel things he'd said, how Claire had looked at him with such disappointment before walking away. "I was so sure I was right," Ryan said, "so certain that she was throwing her life away. But I was the one who was wrong. She was doing important work. She was happy. She was making a real difference. And I couldn't see it because I was too busy measuring success by the only metric I understood: money." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, "Claire didn't hate you, you know." Ryan looked at him sharply. "She talked about you sometimes," Marcus continued. "Usually late at night when she couldn't sleep. She'd tell me stories about being a kid, how you used to read to her before bed, how you taught her to ride a bike, how you'd take her to the office on Saturdays and let her sit at your desk and work." Ryan remembered those Saturdays, before everything got complicated. When Claire was 6, 7, 8, she'd put on one of his ties and pretend to make important phone calls. "She loved you," Marcus said. "She was hurt, angry, disappointed, but she loved you. She needed you to meet her where she was, not where you wanted her to be." "I was so stupid," Ryan whispered. "You were human. You made mistakes. But Ryan, look around. You're getting a second chance with Ethan. Don't waste it." Ryan nodded, throat tight. Over dinner, Ethan chattered about his day, preschool, friends, a caterpillar he'd found in the garden. Ryan listened, really listened, in a way he'd never listened to Claire. After Ethan went to bed, Ryan and Marcus sat on the porch of the guest house, drinking beer and talking about nothing in particular, the ease of friendship. "Thank you," Ryan said suddenly. "For what?" "For giving me this chance, for letting me be part of Ethan's life, for trusting me even though I didn't deserve it." Marcus shrugged. Everyone deserves a second chance. That's what Claire believed. She'd want Ethan to know his grandfather. "I hope I'm making her proud." "You are," Marcus said quietly. "I think you really are." 1 year became 2. Ethan grew from a shy 4-year-old to a confident 6-year-old. He started first grade at the local public school. He had friends. He was thriving. Marcus and Ryan's relationship deepened. They weren't just grandfather and father of the same child anymore. They were friends, family. Ryan cut back on work, started leaving the office at 5 instead of 8, spent evenings with Marcus and Ethan, helped with homework, played catch in the backyard, showed up for soccer games and school plays, all the things he'd never done for Claire. He couldn't change the past, but he could be present now. One evening, Marcus got a call from the community center. Budget cuts. They were eliminating positions. Marcus's job was gone. "I've got 2 weeks," Marcus told Ryan, voice tight. "Then I'm unemployed." "You'll find something else," Ryan said. "Doing what? I barely have any skills. No degree. I'm 34 years old with a resume that says maintenance worker." Marcus ran his hands through his hair. "I don't know what to do." Ryan wanted to fix it, wanted to offer Marcus a job, write a check, solve the problem with money. But he'd learned that wasn't what Marcus needed. "What do you want to do?" Ryan asked instead. "If you could do anything, what would it be?" Marcus laughed bitterly. "That's not how the world works for people like me. Humor me." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "I've always wanted to be a teacher, work with kids, but that requires a degree, college, money I don't have, time I don't have." "What if you had the time?" Ryan asked carefully. "What if someone watched Ethan while you went to school? What if tuition wasn't an issue?" "Ryan, I'm not trying to buy you. I'm trying to invest in you. There's a difference." You're family now, and family helps family. Let me help you build the life you want." Marcus stared at him. "Why?" "Because Claire would want me to. Because you deserve it. Because I wish someone had given me this kind of support when I was your age." Ryan met his eyes. "And because you've given me back my family. This is the least I can do." Marcus's eyes were wet. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes." "Yes," Marcus whispered. "Okay, yes." Marcus enrolled in a teaching program at a nearby college. Ryan hired a nanny to watch Ethan after school. Marcus studied, went to classes, worked harder than Ryan had ever seen anyone work. And 2 years later, Marcus graduated with a degree in elementary education. Ryan sat in the audience, Ethan beside him, and watched Marcus walk across the stage. His chest was so full of pride he thought it might burst. This was what it meant to be family, not blood, not obligation, but showing up, supporting each other, building each other up. Marcus got a job teaching second grade at a public school in Westchester. The pay wasn't amazing, but it was steady. He loved it. Came home every day with stories about his students, glowing with purpose. "Thank you," he told Ryan one night, "for believing in me, for making this possible." "You did the work," Ryan said. "I just removed some barriers." "Still, you didn't have to, but you did." They looked at each other, and Ryan saw something shift in Marcus's expression, something warm and complicated and entirely unexpected. Ryan felt it too, had been feeling it for months, if he was honest. The way his heart rate picked up when Marcus smiled, the way he looked forward to evenings together, the way Marcus's presence had become the best part of his day. He was 58 years old. Marcus was 36. There was an age gap, history, complication, but there was also something undeniable growing between them. Neither of them said anything that night, but the awareness hung in the air, heavy and electric. A few weeks later, Marcus invited Ryan to Ethan's school play. Ethan was playing a tree in the first-grade production of The Wizard of Oz. They sat together in the crowded auditorium, shoulders touching. Ethan stood on stage in a brown costume with paper leaves, completely still, taking his role as a tree very seriously. "He's so good at being a tree," Ryan whispered, and Marcus laughed, the sound quiet and warm. Their hands were inches apart on the armrest between them. Ryan felt hyper-aware of the distance, the space that felt both too much and not enough. Marcus's pinky finger moved, just slightly, brushing against Ryan's. It was such a small touch, barely anything, but it sent electricity through Ryan's entire body. He didn't pull away. Neither did Marcus. After the play, they took Ethan out for ice cream to celebrate his performance. Ethan chattered excitedly about being on stage, already planning his next theatrical role. "I want to be the main character next time," Ethan declared. "I think you were the best tree I've ever seen," Marcus said solemnly. "Better than a real tree?" Ethan asked. "Way better." Ryan watched them, his heart so full it ached. This was his family, this little boy and his father. They'd saved Ryan in ways they'd never know. That night, after Ethan was asleep, Marcus knocked on the door of the main house. "Hey," he said when Ryan answered. "Can we talk?" They sat in Ryan's living room, the one that had been cold and formal for years, but now felt lived in thanks to Ethan's toys scattered around and Marcus's jacket on the back of a chair. "I need to say something," Marcus started, voice nervous, "and I don't know how you're going to react, but I need to say it anyway." Ryan's heart pounded. "Okay, these past 2 years, living here, getting to know you, it's been the best thing that could have happened to me and Ethan. You've been so generous, so supportive. You've become family." Marcus took a breath. "But somewhere along the way, my feelings started changing. And now I don't know how to... I think I..." He trailed off, looking miserable. Ryan's throat was tight. "Marcus, I know it's complicated," Marcus rushed on. "I know there's the age difference and the history with Claire and the fact that you're Ethan's grandfather. I know all of that. But I can't help how I feel. And I feel... God, I feel like I'm falling for you, and I needed you to know. Even if you don't feel the same way, Even if this ruins everything, I needed to be honest. Ryan couldn't breathe. Marcus's words hung in the air between them, brave and terrifying. "You're not alone," Ryan said quietly. Marcus's head snapped up. "What? You're not alone in feeling this way. I've been fighting it for months, telling myself it was wrong, that I was too old for you, that it would complicate everything. But Marcus, I wake up every morning excited to see you. I find excuses to be near you. You make me laugh in ways I haven't laughed in years. You make me want to be better, and I think I've fallen for you too." They stared at each other, the confession hanging between them. "What do we do?" Marcus whispered. "I don't know," Ryan admitted. "This is complicated. Yeah, but I don't want to lose you, either of you. Ethan is my grandson. You're the best thing in my life. I can't mess this up." "Then we take it slow," Marcus said. "We figure it out together. We put Ethan first, always." "Always," Ryan agreed. They sat in silence for a long moment. Then Marcus reached across the couch and took Ryan's hand. It felt like coming home. They took it incredibly slow. No labels, no announcements. Just the two of them figuring out what this new thing between them could be. They had coffee together after Ethan went to bed, talked for hours, learned each other in new ways. Their first kiss happened 3 weeks later. Marcus had cooked dinner. Ethan had fallen asleep on the couch watching a movie. Ryan was helping clean up in the kitchen. "Thank you for dinner," Ryan said. "It was perfect." "You say that every time," Marcus teased, "because it's true every time." They were standing close, too close. Marcus's eyes dropped to Ryan's mouth. "Can I—" Marcus started. "Yes," Ryan said. The kiss was soft, tentative, perfect. When they pulled apart, both were smiling. "Wow," Marcus breathed. "Yeah," Ryan agreed. "Wow." They dated in secret for 6 months, not because they were ashamed, but because they wanted to protect Ethan, wanted to be sure this was real before introducing new complications to the boy's life. But it was real, so incredibly real. Ryan had been in love before, with Amanda when they were kids. But this was different. This was adult love, chosen love, love built on friendship and respect and showing up day after day. Marcus made him laugh, challenged him, called him out when he was being stubborn or falling into old patterns, supported his work, while also insisting he maintain balance. And Ryan did the same for Marcus, celebrated his successes as a teacher, listened when he had hard days, reminded him that he was brilliant and capable and deserving of good things. They were partners, in every sense of the word. Finally, 9 months into their relationship, they decided to tell Ethan. They sat him down one Saturday morning. Ethan was 7 now, perceptive and smart. "Buddy, we need to talk to you about something," Marcus said. Ethan looked between them, eyes wide. "Am I in trouble?" "No," Ryan said quickly. "Nothing like that. We wanted to tell you something." "You know how you have friends at school," Marcus started, "and how sometimes friends can become really close, like best friends?" "Yeah," Ethan said cautiously. "Well, Ryan and I have become really close, more than just friends. We care about each other a lot, like how your friend Tyler's parents care about each other." Ethan's eyes went wide. "You mean like boyfriend and boyfriend?" "Yeah," Marcus said, voice soft. "Like that. Is that okay with you?" Ethan was quiet for a moment, processing. Then, "Does this mean Ryan will be my grandpa and your boyfriend?" "Yes," Marcus said. "Is that weird?" Ethan shrugged. "I guess not. Tyler has 2 moms, and Zoe has a grandma who married a grandpa who's not her real grandpa, so I guess you can be a boyfriend grandpa." Ryan laughed, relief flooding through him. "Boyfriend grandpa. I like that. Can we have pancakes now?" Ethan asked, already moving on. "Yes," Marcus said, grinning at Ryan. "We can definitely have pancakes." That night, after Ethan was asleep, Ryan and Marcus lay on the couch in the guest house, Marcus's head on Ryan's chest. "That went well," Marcus murmured. "Better than I hoped," Ryan agreed. "I love you," Marcus said quietly. I know we haven't said it yet, but I do. I love you." Ryan's heart felt too big for his chest. "I love you too, so much." They fell asleep like that, tangled together, finally able to be fully themselves. 2 years later, Ryan stood in the backyard of his Westchester house, watching Marcus and Ethan set up for Ethan's 9th birthday party. The backyard was transformed with decorations. Kids from Ethan's school ran around playing tag. Marcus laughed at something one of the parents said, his face bright with joy. Ryan's phone buzzed. Work email. Some crisis that needed his attention. He looked at it, then looked at Marcus and Ethan, at this life they'd built together. He turned off his phone. Work could wait. This was what mattered. Later, after the party wound down and Ethan's friends went home, the three of them sat on the porch eating leftover cake. "Best birthday ever," Ethan declared, frosting on his face. "I'm glad, buddy," Marcus said, ruffling his hair. Ryan watched them, his family, and felt such overwhelming gratitude. He'd lost Claire. That grief would never fully disappear. There were still hard days when he missed her so much it physically hurt, but she'd given him a gift. 2 gifts, really. Ethan, his brilliant, kind, funny grandson, and Marcus, the love of his life. Ryan thought about the man he used to be, the one who measured everything in dollars and square footage, the one who pushed away his daughter because she chose meaning over money. That man was gone. In his place was someone who understood what really mattered. Family, love, showing up, being present. "What are you thinking about?" Marcus asked, catching Ryan's expression. "How lucky I am," Ryan said honestly. "We're the lucky ones," Marcus said, reaching over to take Ryan's hand. Ethan made a face. "You guys are so gross." "Yep," Marcus agreed, grinning. "We absolutely are." They sat there as the sun set, the three of them together, and Ryan Stewart finally understood what his daughter had been trying to tell him all along. Success wasn't measured in buildings or bank accounts. It was measured in moments like this, in love freely given and gratefully received, in second chances embraced, in family built not from blood, but from choice. Claire would be proud, Ryan thought, and for the first time since her death, that thought didn't bring crushing grief. It brought peace. 5 years later, Ryan Stewart stood at Claire's grave once again, but this time he wasn't alone. Marcus stood beside him, hand in Ryan's. Ethan, now 14 and nearly as tall as Marcus, placed fresh flowers on his mother's headstone. "Hi, Mom," Ethan said quietly. "I miss you, but I wanted you to know I'm okay. We're all okay." He stepped back, giving Ryan space. Ryan knelt by the grave, placing his hand on the cool stone. "Hi, baby girl. I brought the family to see you." He smiled through tears. "Your son is incredible, smart, kind, funny, so much like you. And Marcus, you chose well, Claire. He's the best man I've ever known, and I love him. I hope that's okay." Behind him, Marcus's hand rested on Ryan's shoulder, warm and steady. "We're happy," Ryan continued. "Really happy. I wish you were here to see it, but I think maybe you are. Maybe you sent them to me, gave me the second chance I didn't deserve. So thank you. Thank you for my family." They stood there together, the three of them, honoring the woman who'd brought them together. Ryan thought about how impossible this moment would have seemed 10 years ago, standing at his daughter's grave with her widower, now his partner, and their teenage son, a family forged from grief and second chances. Claire had always believed in unexpected possibilities, in finding beauty in broken things, in creating family from connection rather than obligation. She would have loved seeing this, Ryan thought. Would have loved knowing that her death, as tragic as it was, had ultimately brought together the people she loved most. Marcus squeezed Ryan's shoulder gently. "We should go. Ethan has soccer practice at 4. Ryan nodded, standing slowly. His knees weren't what they used to be. 63 felt older some days than others. "I'll see you next week, sweetheart," Ryan whispered to the headstone. "I love you." On the drive home, Ethan fell asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the emotional morning. Marcus drove, one hand on the wheel, one hand holding Ryan's. The car was quiet except for soft classical music from the radio and Ethan's gentle breathing from the back. "You okay?" Marcus asked quietly, glancing at Ryan. "Yeah," Ryan said, watching the trees blur past the window. "I really am. It never gets easier, does it? The missing her part." "No," Ryan admitted, "but it gets different, less sharp, more like an old ache than a fresh wound." Marcus nodded. "I dream about her sometimes. She's always young, always smiling, always telling me to stop being so serious." "That sounds like her," Ryan said, voice thick. "She never could stand people who took themselves too seriously." "She'd probably think we're ridiculous," Marcus said, a small smile on his face. "Two grown men still visiting her grave every month." "She'd understand," Ryan said firmly. "She always understood love, even when I didn't." They drove in comfortable silence for a while. "I'm glad you found us," Marcus said eventually. "That day at the cemetery, I'm glad you didn't just walk away." "I couldn't have," Ryan said. "The moment I saw Ethan's eyes, Claire's eyes, I was done for. There was no walking away from that. Still, you could have just, I don't know, sent money, kept your distance. A lot of wealthy men would have." "I was that man once," Ryan said quietly. "The man who thought money solved everything, who thought providing meant the same as being present. That man lost his daughter. I wasn't going to lose my grandson too." "You didn't just get a grandson," Marcus said softly. "You got all of this. Us." "Best trade I ever made," Ryan said, squeezing Marcus's hand. And he was. The grief would always be there, the regret, the wish that he'd done things differently with Claire. The knowledge that he'd had 28 years with her and wasted most of them chasing things that didn't matter. But alongside the grief was gratitude, love, joy. He had a family, a real family, not perfect, but real. Marcus, his partner of 5 years now, who challenged him and loved him and made him better every single day. Ethan, his grandson, who was growing into an amazing young man, and the memory of Claire, forever young, forever loved. Ryan Stewart had spent most of his life chasing the wrong things, but in the end, in the most unexpected way, he'd found what really mattered. He'd found home, and he was never letting it go.